So my life gets crazy with Brooke and Blake and a husband that works 80 hours a week. And I decided to start my own business on top of it, which is insanely crazy. But thanks to the Iowa Clinic, they made it easy to see my doctor. And when I get there, she listens. So I feel like I have a partner. And before you know it, I can get back to my crazy busy, insanely busy life where I have a busy business, busy husband, and busy twins. Oh no, where's Brooke? There she is. Care how you want it. Visit iowaclinic.com.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are 2 hours and 20 minutes away from tip-off. Iowa State and the LSU Tigers. Losing my mind here. We also have a women's game tonight, 9 o'clock. Connor Ferguson will be up at Hilton Coliseum. As you can see, Jared Stansbury and Scott Christopherson are with me. Well, Scott was with us. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. He is in the middle of feeding time with the twins. The feeding frenzy over there in Oshkosh. Jared, what is up? Anything stand out to you from these games earlier today that we need to touch on?
No, man, not really. I think, it's been pretty chalk here so far this morning. Texas is struggling to even put the ball in the basket at all. So it looks like they could be the first Big 12 team to have to kind of go down to the wire here. But other than that, man, it's been pretty standard day. Texas Tech looked about as I expected them to be completely honest, too.
They were awesome. They had no doubt. Did Texas Tech? Looks like we lost Scott. So
yeah, Christopherson said he can't hear, so he's trying to figure out why he can't hear anything.
Oh, okay. Well, that would make a lot of sense. Let's just dig right into this. Thanks to the Iowa Clinic for sponsoring our pregame show, as they have all year. I have a thing where when I get to closer to games, I always think they're going to lose. It doesn't matter who Iowa State's playing. This is how I work. I'm still I have zero opinion on this game other than the fact that it's really on Iowa State. Like, when they play well, they can beat anybody in the country. When they don't, they can lose to anybody in the country. I'm watching all these games across the country that are really struggling to, like the Loyola game today, struggling to put points on the board. How do you feel, Jared, as we inch towards tip-off?
Yeah, I think as much as anything, I feel like they're going to play well, and I don't necessarily know that means they're going to win, but I think that they're going to give themselves a good chance, and I think it probably, as much as anything, it's going to come down to, can you keep LSU from getting hot, and, what can you get from those role guys? I think we know that Isaiah Brockington's going to come out and play well. I think Tyrese Hunter is going to come out and be really poised in his first NCAA tournament experience. But can you get some guys to knock down some shots for you that can take some pressure off of those two and put some pressure onto the LSU defense? I think those are going to be the two biggest keys. But I do think that this team's going to be locked in. They're going to be ready to go, be ready to come out and play good basketball.
All right, I think we finally have Scott Christopherson now. Can you hear us now, buddy?
Yep, I can hear now.
Okay, good deal. What about you, man? We're 2 hours about from tip. Final thoughts on this? How do you feel?
Yeah, from the moment the matchup came out, I'd watched LSU play earlier in the year, and you kind of know the scouting report on them. They're long, they're athletic. Some of the things that we've seen, a lot of the traits in the Big 12 teams. And I think back to the times where we've played well this year, and two things have happened. We've been able to create the quality of shots that we're able to create are what I'm looking for in the first 5 minutes of this game. Are we able to run our offense and create quality looks within the first 15 to 20 seconds, or are we constantly running down to the last 5 or 6 seconds and then having to force up a shot? And then how many points can they manufacture outside of on offense, outside of the half court offense? Early in the season against non-Big 12 opponents, they really made a killing turning teams over and getting out in transition and stealing baskets that way to kind of get them through some of those offensive lulls they've had. So I think that offensively, those are probably the two things that I'm the most keyed in on for this game.
Yeah, and that's really been my fear, Jared, especially when I got to see LSU up close. They're just so big. They're not Texas Tech big, but they're long. Let me ask you this as a big man and the way you watch these post players. I feel like it's pretty clear what you do to Iowa State. You pack it in, you try and make them shoot difficult jump shots, etc. And I think that LSU, I know that they absolutely have the talent to do that, but my question is, will they have the will with everything going around in LSU's program right now? I think they want to be here, but it's also a deal where, they don't really have a coach, right? So, I don't think their in-game adjustments will exactly be great. What do you think about their – TJ threw out – he compared them to Memphis a little bit, and I thought, that Memphis team was as talented of a team as I've seen all year, but they were probably the worst coached. They were probably the worst team I've seen as far as playing together. That would be, to me, where I'm hoping we get that type of a performance from LSU.
Yeah, and I think that's possible. I mean, I think, if you watch that game that they played against Arkansas in the SEC tournament, which was obviously the day before Will Wade was fired, I mean, that was really one of my big thoughts is that did not look like a team that was overly locked in on either end of the floor right now. Offensively, they were kind of doing some weird things. Defensively, it just didn't seem like guys were getting into a stance as early as they need to and be, locked in defensively. So, I mean, I think if you get that version, you and I were watching it together, C-Dub, and I pointed out to you, Xavier Pinson, the times where they're bringing the ball down the floor, he's standing straight up and down, and JD Note is just able to go right by him. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Tyrese Hunter can take advantage of and being able to get to the rim. And, they've got a solid big player and a big man in Efton Reed. He's a, good 7-footer down low. But he's not an overly prolific shot blocker. They don't have anybody at the rim that I think is an overly prolific rim protector. Tari Eason is pretty solid in that respect, coming off the bench. But I think that they play a style that is very similar to what a lot of these Big 12 teams do. But man, I think we've seen during this tournament that the way that these Big 12 teams play, most people are not prepared for that, and even, LSU, who's not going to have gone through the rigors of the Big 12, like what an Iowa State has, where you've played 18 games at this exact style, 19 games in this exact style. LSU has played, I'm sure, a handful, but I think that can be a big piece of it for Iowa State is that they've got it's an iron sharpens iron type of situation, I think, in my mind. I don't know. What do you think of that, Scott?
I agree. And I also think, in these games, you don't know the team as well as you know the teams in your league, and I think that's something that's really worked against Iowa State. They're a team that when you scout them really hard and you know them inside and out, like a Texas Tech was able to, and then the Texas Tech superior athleticism and length. I mean, it's just, they've got you on gridlock. But in these games where you're playing teams that are not in your conference, obviously they scout you, but it's hard to articulate, but there's just a different feel to it. I think back to when we played UConn my senior year. I mean, they had 3 guys that were first-round picks on that team, long, more athletic and talented than us, but, they weren't locked in, ready to play. Like I think Jared was alluding to LSU, maybe not being ready to play against Arkansas for, different distractions. And then they just didn't know us as well as the other teams in our league. And I think that's been my experience in a lot of these either early season, high profile non-conference games, or you get late into postseason, is the level of scouting just isn't, and familiarity isn't there. And I think that will actually work into Iowa State's benefit tonight in this matchup. I would be surprised if they came out with a Texas Tech style of performance on defense. And I'm optimistic for this game for the Cyclones offensively. Not that they're going to go hang 75 or 80 on them, but that they'll be able to run their stuff and create quality looks on a consistent basis.
Jared,
It's just so much harder to blow things up the way that Big 12 teams were able to do to Iowa State when you aren't able to spend. Because, I mean, you got to remember when teams in the Big 12 are scouting their other opponents, you're still watching Iowa State. So they're watching all of the same teams over and over and over and over again, just like what any Big 12 fan would do if you're going to watch every Big 12 game. You get to know these teams and them inside and out. I mean, LSU would not have been able to spend the time to do that. So you just can't anticipate them being capable of every single time Iowa State calls an action or calls one of their whatever they're going to do. You're not going to know them all at the same way to where you can just stop them from running them the same way that Big 12 teams were able to do, especially late in the year. I mean, Big 12 teams were always prepared for what Iowa State was going to do offensively, just like Iowa State was prepared for what they wanted to do.
And I would also add that Iowa State doesn't have a ton of adjustments that they really can make.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, and that's why me, it's like, I don't know, maybe this Kevin Nickelberry will just do fine, because it's like, all right, well, we know what Iowa State's going to do. Jared, Michael wants to know, who do you think Iowa State puts on Eason?
Oh man. I mean,
it's going to be a mixture of guys.
I would imagine it'll be a mixture, and I imagine it'll depend on the other personnel that are on the floor, because if their 7-footer is out there, I mean, that's obviously going to be George. And then I think that you probably have to guard him with someone a little bit smaller, probably Isaiah or someone like that.
Isaiah
I think
was the guy who came to my mind.
Yeah, I think Isaiah is probably the most likely one to spend the majority of the game on him. But I think, I wouldn't be shocked to see Jazz get a couple opportunities to just guard him, just to, get you through some different stretches. So I would think Brockington, but I mean, it's interesting too. The dynamic with him coming off the bench is just kind of weird. He still plays about half the minutes of that they've had this year, but it'll be interesting, because it's not like most games where the game starts and you immediately see what the matchups are. Well, we have to wait now for Tar Eason to even check into the game before you get an idea of what it's gonna be.
That's good stuff. And I have nothing else to break down on this game. We've been doing it for like 5 days straight. Scott, do you have anything else that you want to add tonight before we tip this thing off in a couple hours?
No, I think we've, like you said, analyzed it kind of inside and out the last 4 or 5 days here. So I'm excited for them to tip it up.
Tyrese Hunter is the guy. He goes, Iowa State goes tonight. Am I wrong with the turnover thing?
I think that's fair. I mean, I think Gabe Kalsher will be important in that as well. They're going to press after all of their makes and off of dead balls, so you got to be ready for that. And that's going to put some people that maybe don't normally handle the ball in those scenarios into that position. Gabe is the prime candidate there. We've seen when he gets a little erratic, how quickly that can snowball, and you end up with a 7-turnover game or something like that. But I think Isaiah will have to be ready to handle the ball. But yeah, most of it falls on Tyrese, and how he handles it is going to be especially crucial for this team.
All right, Scott, are you going to get the boys to bed early tonight, or are they going to watch the tournament with you?
We're going to watch together, at least for a little while. I don't think they'll make the end of the game, but we'll watch for a while. I was going to say, I'm curious to see the adjustments that Tay makes. Any adjustment,
I feel like we're losing Scott here. That's all right, buddy. Go and take care of the boys. Your connection's kind of off. Thank you, Butch. We appreciate it. With that, let's just wrap it up, Jared. We got to head over to Pfizer Center. We're clearly still at our hotels right now, and we'll have complete post-game coverage for you guys afterwards. Don't forget, Connor Ferguson will be at Hilton Coliseum covering the women all night, and because they tip off at 9. And then we still have NCAA wrestling. It has not been good. It has not been a good tournament for the Cyclones, but Jacqueline will keep you guys updated on everything going on in Detroit. I think that's it. Thank you, Stans. Appreciate you. And we'll talk to you guys. We'll do a podcast tonight after the game. Later.